Hi, thank you for having me.
Right. So as I mentioned there, China's economy had its second lowest growth in decades last year, capping just 3% growth in 2022. Before we look forward, let's look back at China's economic performance last year. What do you think were the biggest factors behind the slump in their growth?
Okay, as you mentioned before, the growth was impacted heavily by months of the widespread of COVID lockdowns and a historic downturn in the property market. So I think to add to that point, this is not one of the worst performance of China economy in a decade, but also it's one of the worst performance in nearly half a century. So we are seeing the worst growth of China due to various factors, mostly due to the COVID and the downturn in the property market. And while we are seeing the signs of recoveries here and there, it is still a bleak period for China economy currently.
Okay. Right. So as you mentioned there, that zero COVID restriction policy is key to this issue. Now we're seeing a turnaround. China is easing those COVID restrictions policies. So do you see now China's economy will recover in 2023 and see higher growth this year?
Yeah, well, it is forecasted that the China's economy will rebound anytime soon because the zero COVID policy implemented by the Chinese government, this is not the first time. They have deployed the same types of policy in the past. And after it has been eased, the growth of the Chinese economy is rebound very sharply. So hopefully we have been seeing the lowest level of China economy, and we sure hope that the rebound is gonna go swiftly.
All right. So two parts to my next question. First is what sectors do you see recovering in China this year? And also, some economists or institutions are mixed on their forecast. Bloomberg, they upgraded their growth outlook to 5.1%. World Bank, they cut their forecast for China to 4.3%. What is your forecast?
I think it lies somewhere between 4.5 until 5%.
Okay.
Look, I know this is a very broad range of estimate, but we are seeing a very high level of uncertainty. First, the growth engine of China's economy is the manufacturing sector. So it highly depends on how swift the recovery of the manufacturing in China would be. Because if you're talking about the demand for the Chinese product, I think it's still there. It is desperately still there. And once they start the production activity again, I think their export and their demand for their production would be very high. So as long as they could keep on fulfilling the global demand, I think they will recover very swiftly. The problem is with how much capacity they could recover in the short term.
Okay. Could you explain more about that?
Yeah, because the recovery from lockdown it varies greatly across countries. So, for example, we have seen in Europe and US last year and in 2021, they couldn't actually catch up with the growing demand after the COVID. And previously, China could match the demand after the previous COVID lockdown policy. But the current recovery will highly depend on that. Because if we are looking at the official data, they reported that nearly 60,000 COVID-related deaths in the first 5 weeks of the current outbreak. So if the labor market would not be disrupted very much, then I think the manufacturing sector will recover quickly, and they will be so soon to fulfill the global demand for their products.
Right, and of course, this is one of the most recent concerns in Davos. For example, many are happy about China's economic reopening, but also concerned about inflation. Now, that supply-demand mismatch that leads to higher inflation. So let's relate it back to Indonesia as well. Of course, China's and Indonesia's economy are very intertwined. China is Indonesia's largest trading partner. We import the most from China. So do you see higher inflation prospects in China this year with their reopening, and how will that impact Indonesia's economy, especially since we import a lot from them?
Okay. First, I should highlight that if there will be any inflationary pressure in China, that would be demand-driven inflationary pressure. So that means it could be managed by the government and the policymaker and the central bank. But if they could somehow fulfill the demand of the global demand without actually being overheating their supply or reaching their production capacity, I think inflation would be manageable in China. If the inflation would be manageable in China, then we don't have to worry a lot about the transmission of the inflation effect to Indonesia. Because having China as the biggest importer to Indonesia, it means that when China close their factory, close their shop, it means that we have to import it from somewhere else, which might probably be we import it with higher price. So with China opening their production, we are expecting a more affordable product from China as we have been enjoying in the past.
Okay, we're going to take a very short break, but we're going to discuss more about China's economy, its prospects this year, and its impact to Indonesia with Teuku Riefky, Macroeconomics Analyst from University of Indonesia. Stay tuned to Jakarta Movers and Shakers.